Hello, listeners. The PCPS would like to invite you to a whole new way of supporting this podcast. With much gratitude to our monthly supporters on Patreon, we've listened to those of you who like choices, and some of you would prefer to make a one-time donation instead. Done. You can now go to the PCPS website at poppreservationist.com and scroll down until you see a button that says Help Us Keep On Truckin'. The Pop Culture Preservation Society is a completely independent production, written, produced, and distributed by Carolyn, Kristen, and Michelle, and your monetary support is our only source of revenue. This is what pays our bills and keeps the podcast up and running. If you'd like perks to go along with your donation, then a monthly Patreon membership is still the right choice for you. You can choose a level of support that fits your budget, Superstar, Solid Gold, or Bicentennial, and get PCPS extras in your inbox as a token of our appreciation. Episode extras or outtakes, bonus material, downloadable art, and more. And if you still just want to make a one-time donation, you can pay for a full year at once and get a fat discount. We are good Minnesotans, so we hate to inconvenience you, but we will if it means we get to keep doing this job. Thank you so much, and please enjoy the show. This was our song. He didn't know it was our song.
Of course, right.
But it was. This was a long-term relationship in my mind.
Hello world is a song that we're singing. Come on, get happy. A whole lot of loving is what we'll be bringing. We'll make you happy.
Welcome to the Pop Culture Preservation Society, the podcast for people born in the big wheel generation who know what the Dewey Decimal System is and how to use it. Like 920 is biographies.
We believe our Gen X childhoods gave us unforgettable songs, stories, characters, and images. And if we don't talk about them, they'll disappear, like Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition.
And today, we're each saving the 3 songs that made an impact on our lives at a time when pretty much everything made an impact on our lives. Junior high.
I'm Carolyn.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Michelle. And we are your pop culture preservationists.
My home lies deep within you, and I've got my own place in your soul.
I bet if I gave each of you a year or a segment of your life, like college or early motherhood, or even now, you could give me a song or 10 that instantly bring you back to that time because of a memory or something monumental, like good monumental or bad monumental, that happened. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we've talked about music a lot on this podcast and had multiple conversations about not just the importance of its role in our lives, but how music, and certain songs specifically, are truly transformative and responsible for much of the joy we're all finding in this nostalgia. You can put on a Carpenter's album or the Grease soundtrack, and the music, that music that is part of you on a cellular level, is an instant balm.
Yeah,
Yes.
It is. It's like a time travel device.
It is. Yeah. And I think I love the way that you talk about it being on a cellular level, because I really think it gets imprinted somehow into our cells, because I don't really have the choice of my body having these physical, visceral reactions when these songs come on. So it's imprinted somewhere that is not necessarily, just me thinking about it. It happens on its own. I think it has to be, like you said, on a cellular level.
Well, and the cellular aspect of it, too, is I think the reason why the song can send you back instantly to a thing that happened that might not be monumental. Mm-hmm. It might be something very small, like, when the teacher called on you to do a math problem on December 22nd, 1981, and nothing happened. And it's not really that memorable of a thing. But for whatever reason, that song makes you think of that very mundane moment.
I have a Wings song that takes me back to just riding in a car, like with my mom and my sister.
Exactly.
It's not anything big.
Yes.
It's just riding in the car. I don't know if anything happened, and I don't think it did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I found an interesting article online on the website Sound of Life, and I'll link that in this week's Weekly Reader, that gives us the actual science behind it. And science is real, you guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
It said, when listening to music, the brain's visual cortex lights up. This causes us to associate the sound with visual and other memories almost instantly. These sensory snapshots become memories and remain with us for the rest of our lives. Again, we can still create these connections when older, but the ones made before the brain finishes developing at age 25 are likely to be the most deep-rooted and powerful. This is called the reminiscence bump.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it goes on to say, our brains are amazing at recognizing music we've heard before. Not only will our minds recall the sound stored in our memory, but it will also conjure the other sensory memories that have been attached to it. This is why you'll hear a song from your college days and be able to taste your old roommate's cooking, or why you might smell leather car seats when hearing something that your dad played while driving around. And they say with all the different parts of the brain that it wakes up and interacts with, musical nostalgia might turn out to be the defibrillator of the mind.
Oh my
I
God.
love that phrase.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, and that also might be why when we hear these songs, we know where we were, we know what it smelled like, we know what was happening, we know what the name of the song was, we know who the performer was, we know the lyrics to the song, we can sing along to it. And music today, though I may like it and I populate my playlist with all these new songs that I really, really like, I can't keep in my mind who's singing it, what the title of it is. I swear every time I hear something from a playlist that I designed, I'll be, oh, I love this song. Who does this? I can't keep it in my brain.
It's because you don't have the reminiscence bump.
I don't have the
That's what they
reminiscence
call
bump.
The connections we made before our brains stopped developing at age 25. Yeah.
If it's
Isn't that
not by
interesting?
Taylor Swift or Harry Styles, I have no idea who is singing that song.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, today our episode is called 3 Songs That Made Me, which coincidentally is similar to the name of a terrific podcast called 10 Songs That Made Me, where artists are asked to share 10 songs that marked memorable and meaningful moments in their lives. But we don't have that kind of time. That would be 30 songs. That's too much. So our episode, listeners, is called 3 Songs That Made Me. And to narrow it down even more, we're going to limit our selections to songs from our junior high years, or in my case, middle school, which shout out to View Ridge Middle School in Ridgefield, Washington, and my scary science teacher, Mr. Horn, who is the only teacher who ever sent me to the corner for talking too much, and therefore will remain forever in
You're
my
scarred.
mind. Talk about a reminiscence bump. Mr. Horn lives
You'll
there
never
too.
forget that. You were the good girl. That probably hurt.
And I talked all the time. Why'd you pick that time to send me to the corner? So let's just get into it because I know we'll all have feelings about each other's picks. And listeners, this is really fun. We don't know each other's picks yet. So this is going to be a big surprise for all of us as well as you.
The things you lean on are things that don't last. Well, it's just now and then my line gets cast into these time passages. There's something back there that you left behind. Oh, time.
Well, you guys, let's face it. There are so many great and memorable songs from my junior high years, which were 1976 to 1979. Arguably some of the best years ever when it comes to what was coming out of our radios. So I kind of had to come up with a kind of a rubric to help me narrow down these 3 songs. And so here's what I did, you guys. The songs I chose had to instantly transport me to those years, and I had to have an immediate, specific feeling when hearing just the first few notes of the song. So with that in mind, my first song, it's maybe going to seem like an odd choice to some of you. It fits my Rubik's criteria perfectly. And that song is Color My World by Chicago.
As time goes on, I realize just what you mean to me.
Now wait, you might say. Chicago had a hit with that song in 1971. And you weren't in middle school then, Carolyn. And I would say, well, that would be correct. But I was in junior high when my band director, Mr. Quillen, chose it as one of the selections for the West Memorial Junior High Symphonic Band to perform. Now, odd selection for a band performance, right? I thought that as well. But after doing a little research on this song, I have some theories for you guys, okay?
Okay.
So, Mr. Quillen, I think, maybe chose it because Color My World was one of the most popular songs to be played at high school dances and weddings in the early 70s. And since Mr. Quillen was probably in his late 20s or early 30s when he was our band director, I'm thinking maybe this song meant something to him. Was it his wedding song, a prom theme? It meant something to him, but it sure didn't mean anything to us. So travel back with me to West Memorial Junior High School, because it was always an exciting day in band class when we would get new music. And as a clarinet player, you guys, we seem to get some pretty good parts to play, like the recognizable parts of the song. Like you could go home and practice it and your parents would know what you were playing. I got the melody. So when I saw the sheet music to Color My World, and listeners, I'm going to put this in the Weekly Reader or in our show notes, because I thought, really? Well, first of all, let me tell you, color in this song is spelled Colour. So right away, you're like, what the heck? It's probably the first time I saw the word color spelled that way. And then, you guys, my eyes caught the music. It was like the same 12 notes over and over and over again. Na, 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 na. As time goes on. But the na, 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 na. The whole song was the clarinets just na-na-na-ing it forever and ever. Now, I need you all to know that junior high band in the state of Texas, it's like you are miniature high school students, and band in Texas, you guys, is like a sport. So there is before school practice, there is after school practice, there is band class, there is a lot of time spent in band. And while I did love Mr. Quillen, he was a taskmaster. And if we made too many mistakes or the clarinets squeaked too much, he would sometimes get really angry and his face would get really red. And his little baton thing, you know, that like kept time to the music that he conducted with, he would throw it on the ground and he would storm off to his office and close the door. And we would all just kind of stare at each other.
With children.
I was about to say, he's acting like the child.
He was very intense. He loved his band, he loved his music, and he loved perfection. And so I've got to tell you guys that whenever that song comes on the radio, I get this visceral, like sick to my stomach, feeling so sad for whatever instrument in the real Chicago song had to play the na, 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 na over and over again. And it's so interesting because now, I mean, it's few and far between, but we do listen to 70s on 7 a lot on our XM radio in the car. And so when it does come on, and I'll make this like groaning sound, and if any of my family members are in the car, I will start to say, I'll like, you guys, you know why I hate the song? And they say, yes, Mom, you played in a middle school band, and you had to play that na, 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 na over and over again. So that became the third criteria for how I chose these songs. If my family has heard the story behind some of these songs, that will be what determines if it made to my top 3 list. So, ladies and gentlemen, Color My World by Chicago is a song that will always take me back to junior high.
Okay, so now we're moving on to Fred Moore Junior High, where I attended Fred Moore Junior High from 1980 until 1983. And the first song that I'd like to share with you is Chariots of Fire by Vangelis. So Chariots of Fire.
It's going to be playing very softly in the background as you tell us in your song.
Yeah. Why do we laugh? I don't know, but Chariots of Fire.
It's such a great song. That's a band song too, though, isn't it?
Yes. So Chariots of Fire was the theme song for the 1981 movie about 2 runners in the 1924 Olympics, back when they ran foot races in what basically looked like ballet slippers. And it was used in this classic slow-mo scene when they're dressed all in white. Those were their running togs, all in white, and they're running barefoot in the surf in slow motion. So tell me you're a Gen Xer without telling me you're a Gen Xer. Just play this song and watch people start running in slow motion. Right?
For sure.
It was almost a Bionic Man kind of thing. The way it inspired us to run. And this weird slow motion instrumental song actually went to number 1 in 1982. So I watched the video to get ready for this. You guys, it's not in slow motion.
Wait,
it's
what?
not in slow motion.
When they're running?
When they're running.
Yes,
I know, exactly. You're like, of course it is.
I can picture it.
Right, yes. Yes, it's indelible in my mind.
And they're just it's beautiful too in my mind.
It's beautiful. It's an iconic scene. I'm telling you, it's not in slow motion. And Vangelis is this weird Svengali character at the piano who stops playing now and again to like take a drag off his cigarette in the video.
So this is on is this on MTV then?
Yeah.
How do we know? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just, I mean, imagine if it didn't have a video, would we even be as invested in the song?
Well, I think most people know it from the movie because at that point in time, when a movie was a big deal, remember, we only had like 3 movies at a time. We didn't have 800 movies out at a time. You had like 3 movies, and then you have the Oscar contenders, and everybody saw the big movie.
Well, there's only like 5 Oscar contenders too.
Yes.
Or 4. Now there's what, 10? Yeah.
And now there are 10.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen the movie.
Oh, we might have to rectify that. But honestly, all you have to see is the
Yeah, that's all I've seen. So that's why I'm
that.
saying if it wasn't for the video, I don't think I'd care about the song. But I love
You
the
have
song.
to watch the video and just watch him like stop, take his hands off the piano and just, pick up a cigarette and take a big drag. And it's not dramatic. It's trashy. It's so funny. Like, what are you doing? You perv? It's weird. Ugh. So I did a ballet duet with Christy Bougie to Chariots of Fire in 7th grade. I have pictures here. I'm going to show you.
Oh my.
Yes, I love that picture.
Yes, there I am.
Oh, she's got point shoes.
Yes, I have point shoes on.
Oh,
Yep, you can see I'm dressed all in red.
You are.
We had bright red leotards onto which my mom had sewn bright red sequins. Then we had these long, gauzy red skirts. See, don't I look like a flame? Fire.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Get fire. And then we had these giant red sashes that had to be tied just so that we looked uniform. So this dumb sash, look at this dumb sash. Our moms would tie and retie, untie, retie, tie it again. And so Chariots of Fire was a big old deal because Christy Bougie and I had been handpicked from a sea of other girls dressed in red to perform this at some big dealio competition. And I had learned some big time ballet shenanigans to do Chariots of Fire. If you know, all the dancers out there, if you know what a tour jeté is, it's big. It's like big girl stuff. And I had to learn how to do it. Little Kristen was like, oh, I'm a real ballerina now.
Isn't there a leap involved in that?
Yes, it's a
like
form of a leap.
It's the back, you do the back thing and then you do a little turn, don't you?
Yep, and then you flip over and turn. Yeah.
Oh,
tour jeté. It's just it's like jeté. So I can sort of remember how this dance began, and it starts out on the floor. So I thought, I'm going to try it. I'm going to put on Chariots of Fire. I'm going to try it. You guys, I couldn't even get into the position. Like, it was not hard. It was not hard. I couldn't get off the floor. It was so demoralizing. I'm like, oh. I couldn't do it. It was very sad.
My first pick might surprise you guys, knowing me, but my first pick is Hotel California by the Eagles.
On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitas rising up through the air, up ahead in the distance.
You were expecting me to pick some Duran Duran, weren't you?
Right. Well, and that's
Right?
in Carolyn's category where it came out earlier,
That's
but it
right.
affected you in junior high.
Exactly.
Oh, well,
So
that
this
song
song
affected me too. And not in
Oh, God. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because this song was released in 1976, but in 1982, at my 7th grade Valentine dance, I got asked to dance to this song by Rick Brannon. Basically, Rick Brannon was our class's Jake Ryan.
The BMOC.
And Hotel California is not
And
a short
I
song.
thought, well, that's it. He's
We're
chosen
getting
me.
married.
I'm
Yep.
the one.
Mhm.
I'm the one. Oh, sorry, all you other girls. I'm it. And then after about, I swear, what felt like 28 minutes of the band who was performing at our 7th grade dance, not a DJ,
that's
the
fancy.
band who was performing.
So
Hotel
the band
California.
is playing Hotel California. Oh.
After about what felt like 28 minutes, I was pretty over it because you guys, that song is actually 6 minutes long.
Yes.
And it became very awkward. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. The swaying back and forth while you're averting your gaze just over his left shoulder.
Oh, God.
You're not talking. because if you talk, your faces have to turn and they're way too close. But over his shoulder, you're seeing all your friends make the kissy faces and do all the fun stuff. And you have to remain stone-faced. And I kind of just wanted the floor to open up and swallow me in that moment. I didn't care if I ever felt Rick Brannon's hands lightly touching the waist of my red polka-dotted, tiered, ruffled homemade dress ever again. I did not ever feel Rick Brannon's hands on my waist ever again.
It was not true love.
Because choosing me for that dance was probably a dare or something, let's be real. But you guys, for about 2 minutes, like as he walked over to me and you realize, and the band's starting, so you hear the song starting and you realize what's about to happen. For about 2 minutes, that moment and that song to me were everything.
You're like, I belong.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
That's so funny that like that experience transpired in 6 minutes. The 2 minutes of, I've made it. I'm doing junior high right. And then the latter half where you're like, I hate this.
Well, exactly. And you guys know me well enough by now, and longtime listeners know me well enough by now too, that as our class is Jake Ryan, basically is coming over and you can tell he's going to ask me to dance. I am equal parts elated and absolutely terrified.
Yeah. What am I going to do?
Please don't be coming for me. Please be coming for me. Please don't be coming for me. Please don't be coming for me. Like, I was so insecure, especially around boys. I mean, in 7th grade, I was insecure around boys in 9th and 10th grade. This is 7th grade. And I was wearing this little red dotted Swiss, like polka dot. My mom made it for me and it had like 3-tier ruffle. And then I wore a little red choker ribbon and she made a little red ribbon rose on it. And I had the real fluffy feathered hair. And I think I had braces.
I can just picture that.
Well, you mentioned like it was probably a dare. And I always had that in the back of my mind too. If I looked happy or excited about this and then it turns out to be a dare, that would be humiliating. So I'm going to go into this acting nonplussed.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll be real honest with you. I wasn't it probably wasn't a dare. Like I was friends with the girls who did get asked out and stuff like that. So, sadly it wasn't like one of those cliched, John Hughes movies where you've got Joan Cusack over with, her scoliosis brace on and the guy just dared to, but at the same time, I was not the girl that all the Jake Ryans were asking to dance. So it's a song that made me for one reason or another, because when I hear that song, I go back to the 7th grade Valentine dance.
Oh God. And all of that smashed into 6 minutes. And truly like the whole
6 minutes in heaven.
Yeah.
And right now my skin is kind of crawling because I can be put right back into there because it talk about things that made me, my insecurity made me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and I know a lot of people listening can relate to that too.
Welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place.
I can totally relate to a lot of that because my next song is something very similar, a similar experience involving slow dancing and boys and all of that. And I think I've shared this before, but so my next song is Sometimes When We Touch by Dan Hill.
Sometimes when we touch, the honesty's too much, and I have to close my eyes and hide.
Okay, you guys, that song. I was in 7th grade in 1977 when that song came out and attending my first boy-girl parties, when you go to someone's house. Mm-hmm. And every time the song comes on, I get kind of this yucky, uncomfortable, kind of awkward feeling in my stomach. Mm-hmm. And I am immediately transported to like a dark wood-paneled family room with shag carpeting. And when we went and saw Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and there's the scene of the boy-girl party. I think that's probably in a basement, but we didn't have basements in Texas. So it was very much like that. Just, the boys kind of on one side, the girls, the kind of whispering. But at the same time, I remember I really wanted to be invited, but I almost didn't really want to go. It's like, I'm glad I was there, but I didn't want to be there. That kind of tension through the
it's
whole...
totally like what I just said.
Yeah,
I'm glad to get a
exactly.
dance by him, but please don't make me dance with him.
Right.
I want to be chosen, but don't make me touch him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because you kind of knew when you're sitting there talking to your friends, there's like someone was going to get the bottle. I mean, we were playing Spin the Bottle. We were doing 7 Minutes in Heaven and slow dancing to this song. And you just so eloquently stated how we danced in junior high and middle school. In my case, it was like hands on shoulder. So it was like the box step. It was and the swaying kind
both?
of that way.
Guys hands too?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So we weren't,
How
at least maybe I didn't put off those vibes like you did in your polka dots, but mine was like, it was shoulder to, I'm thinking it was shoulder to shoulder, but
Or
it might
We
rib
were
have
shoulder
cage. It could
waist.
be-
We were shoulder
yeah.
waist.
Yes.
Yeah.
All I know is that my hands were resting on top of, well, Scott's. I'm just going to say Scott. But back in middle school, I was pretty much on the taller end, probably one of the top 3 tallest girls in my class. Scott was maybe on the other end, on the short side. So already it's awkward. Already I'm not sure I want to be there. You're talking about kind of looking over their shoulder as you're dancing. I'm like looking way over Scott's head. Like, I wasn't even, it was just this uncomfortable. Am I doing it right? Why am I so tall? I'm awkward. And just feeling really out of place. Like, I just do not belong here. But everyone's kind of acting like we belong here, but I don't. And like, am I really immature? Why do I have this feeling of like people are excited, but I'm not? And that is the exact feeling I get when sometimes When We Touch comes on 70s on 7 or on an Apple playlist. And again, my kids go, we know, Mom, this is one of the first songs you slow dance to, and the guy was really short.
I'm so sorry you get such a bad feeling with that song, because that song gives me, and here we go, yucky feeling in my tummy, but in a good way. It gives me that twisty feeling, and I don't know why. It's almost
so
just 'cause
sad.
It's so sad, but it's like beautifully sad. But I love listening to that song, so I'm so sorry that you have
it's almost like that feeling because I love the song too for the musicality of it and the words, and it's like almost when you have like I don't want to say a bruise. What is that thing when you have something that hurts but you keep like pushing it, and it's kind of this mixed. Maybe never mind. We'll take all of that out.
No, Carolyn. I don't know.
Well, like, if you have a canker sore in your mouth and
Any
you kind of
nurses
play
out
with
there?
it kind of hurts, but you can't stop
Like,
playing
you're
with
just
it.
checking. You're
pleasure
checking.
pain.
You're
Yes,
just
pleasure
checking.
pain.
I think this is a universal experience where you are looking around and it appears that everyone else is so comfortable with what's happening around you. And you're like, why are they so comfortable with this? Do they really know that much more than me? Have they really done this that much more than me?
Right.
Why do I know nothing?
Right. Well, let's flip that. Rick Brannon, who we were like, is the Jake Ryan. And I'm thinking he's super confident and he's the Jake Ryan. He could have been terrified to ask a girl to dance. And he was like, oh, there's Michelle. She's safe. Right? We don't know. Because I was like a really nice girl. I was friends with everybody, and that we don't know. Right. We all perceive it differently.
Right. I think I thought Scott probably asked me to dance because I was so tall and gangly, and he I always remember he was like very self-confident. So he probably, in my mind, he felt sorry for me because maybe no one was asking me to dance because I was so tall. So that didn't bother him.
That's the equivalent of, I'm sure it's a dare.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure he felt sorry for me. That's the only reason. It's not that he likes me. It's that he felt sorry for me. Again, junior high paranoia.
I hate it.
At times I think we're drifters, still searching for a friend, a brother or a sister. But then the passion flares again. And sometimes when we touch, the honesty's too much.
Okay, my next one. Let's just stick with the theme, shall we? Let's keep talking about boys.
Oh, no.
And my next song is "Open Arms" by Journey.
Lying beside you, here in the dark, feeling your heart with mine.
And did you know that "Open Arms" is said to be the very first power ballad?
Oh, really?
That was not always a thing. The hard rock, the classic rock, the who did a slow touching love song, that was not always a thing. So it was actually written for the babies, but the lead singer John Waite, I'm not missing you at all. That guy,
love that song.
He rejected it. He said this song is too syrupy and sentimental. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Wow.
But Steve Perry loved it, and he wrote the words that we can all sing by heart. The rest of Journey, not so much. Not their style. It was not macho. This song is not macho.
Sure.
And they did not want to do it. Well, haha, joke is on them because Open Arms actually went on to be their biggest hit of all time, topping out at number 2. We all think it's Don't Stop Believing. Don't Stop Believing only went to number 9.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
That's right. Until The
Well, you know.
Sopranos, and it was Born Again.
Right.
But Open Arms is technically their biggest hit. And after Open Arms, all of those bands had to have a power ballad.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like REO. I think about
That's
it.
right. That's
Mhm.
right. So Open Arms is the song that I chose as the musical montage for my crush on my Scott S. One of the many Scotts, obviously.
We all had Scott.
Actually, I had more than one Scott S, so that's not even really helping. So many Scotts.
Mm-hmm.
So this was our song. This was our song. He didn't know it was our song.
Of course, right.
But it was. This was a long-term relationship in my mind. I had a crush on this particular Scott S, since 5th grade. This is the Scott that I wrote about in my diary. And the girls at my 11th birthday party, when I turned 11, read my diary out loud and made the news of my crush public.
Mm-hmm.
A horrifying moment.
Bitch.
So now I'm in 8th grade, and I'm still in love with this Scott S. And this crush, with Open Arms as the backdrop, was the first time I had ever done anything about a crush. All the other crushes that I had had prior to that lived alone, silently in my head. But in 8th grade, I felt like I could do something, not just love him from afar. So he was in my math class, and I was in the front row, and he was in the last row, which meant then when we passed our math papers back to get graded, you know how you would do that? Which pass your paper, one behind you, that person corrects your paper. That meant that Scott S. had to bring his paper to the front to be corrected by me. So I would leave him little encouraging notes on his math paper, like,
You're doing
good job. Oh, only one wrong, smarty. Stuff like that, right?
Gosh.
And then I progressed to asking him questions. What you doing this weekend? Anything fun? He never acknowledged this. He never answered any of my questions. All of this was wordless. We never spoke until the Halloween parade of 1981. Anoka, Minnesota, as many people know, is the Halloween capital of the world. There's a big-ass parade, which is like the social event of the year. And Scott S. was in the marching band. He played trombone. So I had a friend visiting from out of town, and I conveniently positioned us on the curb, as the parade is going by. I positioned us on the curb at the very place where I knew the band members had to weave through once they were done. So we waited, and finally he came into view, and I struck, and I went, "Hi, Scott!"
Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And you probably planned that for days.
I probably scripted it, right? Hi, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
And nothing.
Oh.
Crickets. I was so mortified. I mean, truthfully, he probably didn't hear me.
Yes.
But in my mind, he overtly ignored me and did not
yeah.
respond. And on Monday at school, I felt the need to write him an explainer on his math paper to sort of save face from this thing that I had done. Hi, Scott.
What did you say?
I blamed it all on my friend. I remember exactly what I wrote on his math paper. I said, "I only said hi to you on Saturday because my friend thought you were cute."
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm blushing
I know.
for you right now.
It's horrifying. It's horrifying.
You
And
like
again,
to over-explain, don't
Really
you,
making
Kristen?
it
No
better.
response.
Really
Yeah.
making it better though, Kristen.
Yep. Just digging a hole.
And the whole time in your head, you're hearing, "So now I come
to you with open arms." Yes, and crying. After the Halloween parade, I cried and cried because I had ruined it. I had ruined it all by going, "Hi, Scott."
If only it said something different.
I know. He was so freakishly indifferent to me. And to this day, I don't think I've ever exchanged a word with this Scott S.
Well,
And we went all the way through high school together, elementary school, junior high, high school. Never exchanged a word after that dramatic relationship we had.
Now that you've come back to my little
take us out of boy crazy related songs that made us. And I'm going to take us to 1981. And my next song that made me in middle school, junior high, is Our Lips Are Sealed by the Go-Go's.
Can you hear them? They talk about us, telling lies. Well, that's no surprise. Can you see them? See right through them. They have the shield, nothing can do.
From their 1981 album, Beauty and the Beat. And honestly, every single song from this album could define my 7th grade year for such fun and happy reasons. I mean, it's the Go-Go's. Come on, right? How could it be anything, but how could you have anything but fun memories connected to these songs? But this song, Our Lips Are Sealed, sticks with me for this reason. When I lived in Washington State from 5th grade through 9th grade, which I've said several times on this podcast, was really the most defining segment of my life, and a place that was truly traumatic for me to move away from. I bet you guys didn't know that I was part of the Go-Go's. Did you?
Oh,
I did not. No.
Yeah, I was. I was part of the Go-Go's. So our next door neighbors, Barbara and Kathy Shields, were the ages right in between me and my sister. So at this time, they were in 8th and 9th grade. And we did a ton of things with them. We were always over at each other's houses. And when my mom and my stepfather would travel, we'd just stay with them. So I'm going to guess it was about January or February of 1982. And we were staying with them for about a week. And the Beauty and the Beat album was huge still because it had just been released that previous summer of 81. We were, like you guys, like everybody listening, we were all obsessed. We knew all the songs, all the lyrics. So we decided to become the Go-Go's, even though there were only 4 of us. And we'd switch up the instruments. So we all got a turn to be Belinda, obviously singer, and Gina, the drummer, because those were the 2 most fun to be.
Oh,
and
that's
listeners, I used air quotes for switch up the instruments because since I was the youngest, I always got told what to do by everybody else. And I got told what part of each song I never got to choose. Yeah. No. But on Our Lips Are Sealed, I got to play guitar, the tennis racket guitar. And that song has a very staccato guitar beat, so I could really nail it. And I just remember having so much fun. I'd swing it like Jane does when she, how Jane, when she kind of goes up and down like this with it, and she sings, and she's just so cute and
she's so
boppy.
cute.
And so I just remember I would swing it around like Jane, and I'd go up to the same mic. I don't even remember who was Belinda, but I'd go up to the same mic, and because Jane does so much of the vocal. They all do background vocals, but Jane sometimes has her own parts, and so. That song to me just was so much fun. And we rehearsed. We did every song on the album. We rehearsed it all week long before putting on a concert of every song from Beauty and the Beat for her parents.
I was going to ask who? For who? I hope it's not the people
They were our audience. Can you imagine how brutal that must have been to sit through? We had a keyboard, so they had an actual keyboard.
The whole
album. And then I think we set up like buckets and stuff for the drums. And we had a tennis racket guitar.
So I just have a couple questions.
Okay.
One, were there costumes or anything?
I believe so, yeah. I bet we went all 80s. I can't say for sure, but knowing how much time, my memory of how much time we spent, like after school in the evenings after dinner. We went to band practice. No, 100%. It was band practice up in like Kathy's room, and because that's where the keyboard was. And so I don't have a memory of costumes, but just knowing the 4 of us, yes, there had to have been probably some mini skirts. Probably like the little ties around her head,
Right.
My sister Barbara and Kathy had great, short, layered hair, like feathered back, my hair was longer and feathered, but yeah, I'm assuming like some esprit probably.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, and then is the album playing quietly to like carry the music?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So it's like lip syncing. You were lip sync. You put on the album and then did your concert.
Yes. The album's playing. We're lip syncing to.
This song, though, I mean, it makes sense to me that this is the well, first of all, it's a girl band. It's all girls. And it made such a splash, like so many songs from junior high did, because it was so different. And the first time you heard that song, you were like, what is this? What is this?
Well, and I remember. Yes. Yeah, I could just go back and forth.
Yeah. I remember the first time I heard this song, and it was on the bus. Somebody brought their boombox on the bus. And I remember like turning my head around to look at the back of the bus. And I'm not going to ask because I'm too shy, but I'm like, what is this that we're listening to right now?
Oh, yeah.
Well, according to some of our followers from our Misheard Lyrics, it was I Love Cecile.
I love Cecile. Mm-hmm.
I love Cecile.
I love Cecile.
So my third choice is Only the Good Die Young by Billy Joel.
Come out, Virginia, don't let me wait. You Catholic girls start much too late. Oh, but sooner or later it comes down to fate. I might as well be the one.
So whenever I hear this song, I am immediately transported to my cousin's family room in Atlanta, Georgia in 1978. And I think my cousin must have put this song on the record player or something, or the radio was on. But anyway, it was playing, and my mom came into the room, and she said, Carolyn, I don't want you listening to this song. It belittles the Catholic faith and makes fun of people who are Catholic. And I was like, what is she even talking about? Like, to me, the only Catholic part really in that song was when Billy Joel sings, Catholic girls start much too late. And I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that I thought that he meant they started their periods late. Oh, like when I first heard that. That's kind of how naive I was with the box step,
Those Catholic
hands.
I just thought it was in general. They just started everything a little too late in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what it means, doesn't it?
So anyway, I'm thinking, first of all, I have no idea what she's talking about because, I guess, I would sing some of the words, but this was one of the first times I heard it. And all I knew was, ooh, this is something maybe I shouldn't be listening to. And evidently, actually, lots of Catholics got upset about the song and some radio stations even banned it, which of course, like a lot of things, made it that much more popular. Mm-hmm. And Billy Joel actually finds it ironic because he said if you really listen to the lyrics, the song is not as much anti-Catholic or anything as it is pro-lust, because he wrote this song based on this Catholic girl that he wanted to, have relations with in high school named Virginia Callahan. He actually names her in interviews and stuff. And I guess was never successful.
Yeah.
So, and in the song, our main character is not successful. But like many other pop culture things that my parents kind of forbid me, in quotation marks, from experiencing, like watching Three's Company, watching soap. Those were two things I could not do. It just made me want to listen or experience those things more. So obviously, I love, love, love Only the Good Die Young. I know every single word. I will sing it as loud as I possibly can whenever it comes on. But I got to tell you, it's not without this little nagging feeling of, ooh, I'm getting away with something. Like, maybe I need to look over my shoulder and see if Lillian is going to pop around the corner. But I told you not to listen to this. So
Do you put it on specifically like when your mom's visiting and just sort of look at it like, I'm an adult. I
think
can sing this now.
Lillian now, she's evolved. So I think she would be all about that song and be like, yeah, those Catholics, how dare they tell you when you can't do stuff. Like, she would be all for the song. I think.
At this point in her evolution, she would be like, give me that Billy Joel song.
That's right.
I like
that one about the Catholic girl.
Should be shipping Virginia and Billy.
Yes.
Yeah, but still that little, that middle school girl in me still has that. Kind of like when, I think maybe Kristen, when we were in Maine, somewhere where I smelt pot, where it's legal. So you can be smoking it, but it's that initial feeling like, oh no, someone's going to get in trouble. Yeah. Like no matter how legal it gets, that's going to always, anytime I smell it, that's going to be what comes up for me.
Darling, only the good die young. Whoa, 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 whoa. I tell you, only the good die young. Only the good die young.
Okay, my next pick is On the Radio by Donna Summer.
On the radio, whoa, on the radio.
Whoa. So On the Radio was released in 1979, but it didn't climb the charts until 1980, and it was Donna Summer's 10th top 10 hit.
Wow.
It was on her first compilation album called On the Radio Greatest Hits Volumes 1 and 2, which I had because I loved Donna Summer. And until recently, I didn't fully remember how much I loved Donna Summer until I found an old school folder full of scraps, like stuff that I had cut out of magazines. It had C-3PO and R2-D2 on the cover, which tells you when I probably bought this folder. And it was full, chock full of things that I had cut out about Donna Summer.
I love that.
Articles, pictures, drawings. I had just based this period of my life. I was so focused on the boys that I was in love with that I had forgotten about the women that I idolized. I think I showed you guys the drawing that I did of
Yes,
Donna
you
Summer
did.
at Studio 54.
We had it in our weekly reader.
Yes,
our
it was in the weekly
subscribers
reader.
have seen it. Yep.
And that was in the folder. And okay, so how did this song change my life? So in those days, if you liked something and you listened to it a lot on your stereo or your boombox or whatever, your whole family had to listen to it too.
Mhm.
I wasn't wiring it directly into my ears. It didn't come out of my phone. This is why my brother can sing all of Andy Gibbs' songs. And this song, so that means this, when I'm listening to Donna Summer, my whole family is listening to Donna Summer. And this song started something that continues to this day, 45 years later.
Wow.
If you ask my mom to turn on the radio, 100% of the time she will go, on the radio, whoa, on the radio. The whole
love
time,
that.
not turning on the radio. So we're driving in the family station wagon. Mom, can you turn on the radio? On the radio, whoa. She would just, and she doesn't know any other words. Those are the only words that she knows. She's been doing this since 1980. My mom has never not sung on the radio when anyone utters anything about a radio.
I love that. And yet she would not turn on the radio. So then you're getting mad.
Yes, you're getting
Turn it
pissed.
on. And she
Turn
just
on
thinks
the fucking
probably
radio.
since 1980, Linda thinks she's as clever now doing that as she did then. That's why I love it. That's why I love it. Because as moms now, we're that mom now. Like I do things still, or little things we all do that are, our kids are just like, ugh.
We think we're cracking people up.
Oh, these are hilarious.
Right.
Hilarious.
When I'm like,
I
oh, you
love
know
it.
why I love this or I hate this song, kids? And they're like, we know, Mom, you played it in band with na, 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 na.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And also another reason I love that, Kristen, is because truly in the decade, the years to come, when you hear that song, that gives you that kind of very sweet memory of your mom.
Yeah.
Right?
On the radio. Whoa,
I'm going to be honest. That's the only words to that song I know as well.
You and Linda.
Okay, my last song that truly made me, and you're going to figure out, you'll learn how when I get to the end of this story. So my last song is Rock This Town by the Stray Cats.
Well, believe me, when late Saturday night, I had my hair part time, the baby just looked so right. Well, pick up a 10, gotta have it.
And as a child, I was really weirdly into the 50s. Like even way before middle school, I just always gravitated toward the fashion, the music. I can't imagine that Happy Days and my love for Happy Days had anything to do with that, right? Haha. So Stray Cats was Stray Cats' first album, was released in the UK in 1981. It wasn't released in America, though, until 1982 when I was in 8th grade. And for fact checkers out there, yes, we know it was actually a combination of their first two albums, and the album was actually called Built for Speed when it was released here, but because I know someone's going to go, that's not exactly correct. Anyway, I was obsessed with that cassette. I had the cassette. I wore it out. So at the end of 8th grade, I tried out for cheerleader for the next year. We didn't have cheerleaders in middle school, but we had high school cheerleaders. So I tried out for cheerleader for 9th grade. And you guys, in this small high school in Ridgefield, Washington, the cheerleader tryouts were held in front of the entire student body of the high
No,
school.
that's wrong. That's not
Of the high
okay.
school. Like
Of
there
the
was
high
an
school.
assembly. There was a high school
Oh
assembly
my God.
to watch cheerleader tryouts.
No. How? That's no.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That's pure objectification.
And then the student body,
oh my
which
God.
totaled only about 400 in all four grades, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, but still, that's 400,
400 people, yeah.
voted on slips of paper. They had a ballot and they would check. And it truly was like this. There was a count. Whoever
my
got
God.
the highest were varsity. The next highest were JV. And it didn't matter what grade you were in. Okay. This is so horrible, especially if you're just a little 8th grader trying out by yourself in front of the entire high school student body, which I did. So you had to do a cheer and you had to do a dance in front of all those kids just sitting on the bleachers staring at you. And little Michelle made up her own dance, because you made up your own dances, to rock this town. And damn it, you guys, if she didn't make varsity football cheer.
Little Michelle.
Ninth grader on varsity. Before you're too impressed, there were only 5 cheerleaders on varsity. But I was the only freshman. I got enough votes to make varsity. And also, before you're even more impressed, my sister, who was a junior at the time of tryouts, she was one of the other 5 on varsity football. And I'm sure all her friends voted for me, because there's like, oh, there's Melanie's little sister, right?
Little
Let's
Michelle.
vote for her. I made varsity football and I made JV basketball. So then there was somewhere they did that. But anyway, that song will always take me back to making up the dance over and over in my room. To
You make up
standing
your own dance.
Oh, yes. Oh, you make up your own dance. So
Oh,
I can
good
still
Lord.
do part of it.
Oh, I'm so
like,
excited.
I had
You're
to
going to show us.
stand-
Both of you are going to
you guys,
recreate your dances.
If you can imagine an entire high school gym and all the bleachers are on one side and they're full, and you would sit in sections, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And here comes little 8th grader Michelle, probably with her braces. And I just remember standing there all by myself in the middle of the gym and the music starting. And every time I hear that song, I get taken back. But I did it. I made varsity. So you talk about a song that made me.
Yeah, that's
Not really.
right.
Again, we were the Sputters. Our mascot was a potato, and
God.
a big potato with a crown. And he dances around with his little arms and his legs out.
No.
Oh, yeah, we're the Ridgefield Sputters. Shout out to Ridgefield, Washington. I know I probably have some friends that are listening. Ridgefield Sputters, he was a big paper mache potato, and he had a little crown, and he wore like blue, like a unitard. And then the next year, just on a side note, just in case you think that I'm like tooting my own horn here, this is so sad. The next year, I tried out again, obviously. I made varsity both football and basketball, because by then I'd been, for sophomore year, went to cheerleading camp that summer. Like, it was so fun. And then the week I got back from cheerleading camp, my mom tells me we're moving and I have to leave. And so the alternate got moved up into my, it's horrific. It was terrible. But anyway, yeah. So anytime
Thanks
you
for
guys hear
ruining
rock
my
this
life,
town,
Mom.
rock this town, imagine little 8th grade Michelle.
So you got to
We're gonna
choose rock this town
rock
and
it
make up the
inside
choreography.
out. Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to rock this town, make them scream and shout.
I
I
like how you go.
believe I had something like this. It's a rock, like the guitar. We're going to rock till we pop, gonna rock till we pop. Sorry, listeners, you can't see that, but I was doing like, how people when they play the guitar and they do their arm in a circle? I believe there was a couple of those. Oh, yeah. It was a bop, man. I danced to that.
Yeah, I'm sure it made you.
Yeah.
It didn't, because let's be real, being a cheerleader or whatever doesn't make anybody. But when you're in 8th grade and you've had to go through that horrifying experience of trying out, and then you realize you not only made it, but you made varsity, I was sort of like, okay, like I can do this. And then I realized, it's probably my sister's friends.
But still, that contributed to your who Michelle became as she entered high school, because there's no doubt that walking into your high school
100%.
with that in your back pocket changed how you presented your persona. You
Suck
were
it,
a
Rick
different
Brannon.
Michelle. Yes. Yes.
Suck
you were
it,
a
Rick
different
Brannon.
Michelle
I made
walking
varsity.
in.
You're in JV football, but I made varsity cheer. I'm cheering for I'm cheering for John Leslie. I'm cheering for all the cute seniors. Yes, I agree with you. 100% walking into freshman year at Ridgefield High School, I sort of felt like, I don't have a boyfriend, but that's okay because I'm on varsity cheer. Let's flip that completely 1 year later, walking into sophomore year high school, Saguaro High School, Scottsdale, Arizona, when there are over 400 people in my sophomore class and I'm nobody. And
got nothing.
I was in my shell completely. I wouldn't speak to people. I was,
Tough stuff.
But let's go back to Rock This Town. Rock this town, rock it inside out.
These are the
We're gonna
moments
rock
of our
this town.
lives.
I know, right? We survive. We survive.
We're gonna rock this town, rock it inside out. We're gonna rock this town, make them scream and shout. Let's rock, 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 and rock. We're gonna rock till we pop, we're gonna rock till we drop. We're gonna rock this town, rock it inside out.
I think one thing that we've made clear today is that the songs that we grew up with made a significant contribution to our lives. Even if that contribution was small, it was still significant. And that's why listening to music from the past isn't just about being too lazy or old to discover new music we enjoy. It's about more than enjoying the music. It's about reaching back in time and having a little moment with yourself. And I really hope our kids will have that same experience when they get older. Taylor Swift and Harry Styles are giving me hope. But, there was a time when I was like, will they be able to have the same thing? Thank you so much for joining us today and going deep with us on the music that helped us grow up.
Thanks to all of you for listening and for sharing our podcast with others. That's huge. And for clicking the stars on Apple Podcasts and leaving a review wherever you can. That helps us get heard, maybe one day by Hoda, Kelly Ripa, Katie Couric. The list goes on and on. And to those of you who take your support of the PCPS to the next level on Patreon, there are not enough thank yous and high fives and hugs for all of you. You are truly what keeps the gas in our tank and keeps this whole thing trucking. And today we're giving a shout out to patrons Susan, Penny, Jill, Lance, Hillary, and Debbie.
And did you know that besides a podcast, we also have a huge social media society? It's true, and it's so much fun. We post daily Gen X memories, and we love to see all of the engagement, and we love reading your stories and the comments you have because of the memories that our posts spark for you. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Pop Culture Preservation Society and join us.
If you have 3 songs that helped you grow up, send us a message on our website. We love to hear from you guys. Go to poppreservationist.com, click on Contact, and scroll down until you see Start Recording. And when you're done, you can sign up for our weekly reader, a once-a-week email newsletter that's like a follow-up to each episode. This week, we'll be sending a link to the podcast that inspired this episode, called 10 Things That Made Me. And definitely that Chariots of Fire video with Vangelis smoking a ciggy and playing the piano. You can sign up on our website or at our link tree on Instagram.
And maybe if you guys are lucky, we'll throw in some pictures of us during middle school so you guys can see just
and
what
Chariots
little
of Fire.
Carolet. Yes, and the Chariots of Fire. I'm going to throw a cheerleading from Ridgefield in, and let's all throw a picture in so you guys can see. You can put a picture to these stories.
The one
right?
with Carolyn playing her clarinet.
Yes, I do.
I would
believe I've
love
got
a
some
clarinet picture.
In the meantime, let's raise our glasses for a toast. Courtesy of Janet and Jack and Chrissy, our Three's Company roommates, to good times.
2 happy days.
To Little House on the Prairie. Cheers.
Cheers. The information, opinions, and comments expressed on the Pop Culture Preservation Society podcast belong solely to Carolyn, the Crushologist, and Hello Newman, and are in no way representative of our employers or affiliates. And though we truly believe we are always right, there is always a first time. The PCPS is written, produced, and recorded in Minneapolis, Minnesota, home of the fictional WJM Studios and our beloved Mary Richards. Nanu Nanu, keep on truckin', and may the force be with you.
Spread a little love and it will keep moving on. Something always